What can you do to improve your job search that will actually help you land your dream gig? Is unemployment in tech really going up? And why are moms the best thing since sliced bread? We're going to talk about this and so much more today on this episode of Bytes and Banter with Thomas Vick from Robert Half. Thomas, let's get into it.
I'm excited. Let's go.
On today's episode of Bytes and Banter, we're joined by Thomas Vick, Senior Regional Director at Robert Half. Thomas, you're our first time second guest at Bytes and Banter. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I feel honored. Being the first second guest, it's definitely an honor. I appreciate it.
Well, you made it challenging as we wrap up the episode later. You made us think of a new question. So I'm really excited to talk to you about specifically the job market, what's happening, what we're seeing. We're not going to be diving into any specific resources today. I know Rubber Half has a ton. I'm sure you'll talk a little bit about some of those that maybe can give us some insights. But let's start with just the shift we've seen in the job market, specifically in the tech space. We went from what was known as the Great Resignation to a season of the Great Hesitation. Walk me through what you're saying. What's happening in the tech job market?
Yeah, the biggest thing, the reason why it's been labeled the Great Hesitation is everybody is a lot more hesitant to move forward with finding other positions, to move forward with hiring. Employers are being a lot more cautious of what they're doing. They have elongated hiring processes. There's a lot more steps that they want to go through. They're being very, very selective. And a lot of times only hiring as they absolutely feel like they have to, and not necessarily as much forward-thinking hiring as what they'd been doing before. At the same time, you also have a lot of hesitation on the candidate side. And that if people feel like they have a good job and they're very comfortable with where they are, there's a lot of hesitation out there about leaving that job and going to somewhere that's brand new with what they feel like is uncertain times.
I feel like my LinkedIn feed, right? It's typically what I see when it comes to the job market would lead me to believe there are a lot of qualified people who are really talented, who were part of a layoff somewhere that just can't find a job for 6 months, 9 months, a year. Is this
Yeah.
something you guys are seeing from an employee perspective? Or is this just noise because the algorithm loves to polarize things and make things seem bigger than they are? Like, what are you guys seeing in terms of people trying to find jobs, like, and the challenges they're having with that?
I certainly can't speak to LinkedIn's algorithms. I don't know those.
Yeah.
But what I will say is LinkedIn is a job board. So it makes sense that this is where people would go if they're trying to find another job, that they would go to the job board, they would work through their network, and that they would be very out there and forward about it, about the fact that they're looking for another opportunity or they might be struggling. That's one. Obviously, the other thing is, with a lot of this and social media posts, it's built to post what's going to get attention. And when people are looking for jobs and they're putting content out there, they're looking for jobs, especially on a LinkedIn, something like LinkedIn, it's going to exacerbate that a little bit. And so, when you look at tech unemployment, the numbers really have not gone up that much. And there's very high demand skill sets that are still out there. So I think it's a combination of really those things. LinkedIn's built for this. That's one. And two, there's people out there that are struggling. They're being very, very vocal about it, and therefore it's coming up more and more, and it's being pushed to the top.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's interesting that you say the unemployment rate in tech, hasn't really changed. It's kind of stayed steady. I would have anticipated maybe it's gone up, right? Just with what you see.
Yeah.
And you see some of these posts, right? And it does break your heart, right? It makes you feel for the people who are in the job market looking right now. And it leads me to the question, people looking for jobs in this great hesitation, right? Where the jobs aren't as plentiful in appearance or in feel as maybe they were 2 or 3, 4 years ago. What are the skills that you're seeing people when they come to you guys and they say, "Here's my resume"? What are the skills that instantly you're like, "Oh, you're not gonna have any problems," right? People need these
Yeah.
skills, right? What are you seeing in terms of employers? What are they looking for?
Yeah, it's honestly very similar to what was in high demand as we look back a couple of years ago. You look at anything related to data, security, those type of roles that are out there. But now you have AI, and anyone that has any type of experience with AI, in addition to whatever skill set they may have, they're going to stand out. And those individuals are going to quickly stand out as more and more companies out there look at the practical usage of AI, and not just what they do with generative AI, but now even the next phases of AI and what's coming with agentic AI and some of these others that are coming. And so, that's the biggest things, but it remains data, security, development, even help desk and support. We've seen an influx of those here recently as well. And so, but when it comes to the differentiators, those skill sets and anybody that has any type of relevant experience within AI, they're going to stand out.
So when you say relevant experience, what will make someone stand out, right? Maybe you've been a part of your organization's AI testing initiative, and maybe you're just prompting and providing feedback, or maybe you've actually, been on the development side, but you're not really doing the AI. You're just using AI, in some function to help aid your job. So you have some exposure, some experience, but maybe you haven't been in an AI focused role. Like, what kind of experience are employers looking for when we talk about AI experience? And then to kind of take that a step further, how can folks use their experience with AI, even if it wasn't formal, right, to talk about this when they're building a resume, when they're talking in an interview, those kind of things?
I think there's a couple of things. Anywhere where you've implemented AI into whatever day-to-day tasks that you've done and there's created efficiencies, it's something that you should certainly be highlighting. It's something you need to be speaking to. Whether you were on the full development team, I mean, we've seen new roles pop up like AI engineers and AI ethicists and, complete AI departments. You don't necessarily have to be that, but whatever your role is, if it's within a data environment, if it's support, whatever it is, wherever you've utilized AI to help make yourself more efficient, to create efficiencies, expedite whatever it is you might be doing, is something you should certainly be highlighting. And the more experience you can get, the better. The advice we're giving people is upskill in this area. If you feel like you have limited knowledge or limited exposure to this particular area, look at different ways that you might be able to upskill, and you might be able to gain more knowledge and more experience, even if it's not within your organization or their environment.
Now that makes sense. I'm thinking just about folks who are maybe employed somewhere, and maybe they've been the same role for a couple of years. Maybe it's been 3 or 4 years, or maybe it's only been a year. And because of the great hesitation, right? They see these things in terms of the trends, almost having a fear of looking for a new job. Maybe they like their company, maybe they want to look for something outside of their company, right? But they don't want to make a change for the same reason that we went from the great resignation to the great hesitation, all those reasons. How do they approach growth, career growth, and knowledge and learning? And, how does someone find a new opportunity where they're at if maybe they are hesitant to leave something because of the security that it brings?
Yeah, there's a few different ways. One, reach out to your network. I know we talked about LinkedIn. Who do you have in your network on LinkedIn that you can leverage? Beginning to go to networking events, being very kind of forward thinking with putting it out there that you might be looking for other opportunities with people that you know and trust. That's absolutely crucial. That's one component of it. I think the other is looking at how do you better your skills as you proactively go to do that, to take yourself and make yourself more marketable, and then candidly using staffing agencies to be to your benefit. I mean, it's a confidential way to go out there and look for new opportunities, and a lot of times we might know about opportunities that you would never have any way of knowing about, because they may not be out there, they may not be on the job boards. So it's really using those type of avenues as to maybe more the traditional avenues of posting your resume out there and things like that, that bring a little bit more of the confidentiality out of play, and instead using resources like a Robert Half or any other staffing firm that might be able to help you confidentially go see what is in the market and be able to give you realistic feedback and expectations.
Yeah, I think some people can be hesitant to put their resume out there, understandably so, right? I just
Yeah.
switched jobs about 7, 8 weeks ago. And as I was navigating the job market, I was one of those people, right? I wasn't putting my resume, my green circle open to work. I wasn't sure if I was going to find a new opportunity that I wanted
Yeah.
to take, and so I can understand that and relate. And That's one thing I don't think I did that would have been really beneficial is pick up a phone and call somebody, right? From Robert Half, or somebody you have a relationship with who can look through your resume, can help you understand what kind of roles to look for, right? And I'm just thinking about how beneficial that might have been. So, like, if somebody wants to be like, "Hey, I want to look for a job," or maybe I'm having a hard time finding a job, how can you guys help them, right? How can you guys work with them to find them an opportunity to help them tweak the way they're looking, et cetera? Walk me through that process. What does that look like on the candidate side?
First of all, congratulations on the new
Thank you.
opportunity. First and foremost, there's a number of different ways we can help them. I think the way that people, only way people mostly think about that is, oh, they're going to place me in a new job, and that's really the only way they can help me is whether or not they place me or not. I'd love it if we placed every person that we talk to, but that's not the reality. We don't. But the other ways that we help people is a lot of times we can help them with bettering their skills. We can offer them platforms for bettering their skills. We can help them with their resume. We can help them with interviewing. We can help them in a number of different avenues, which we're happy to do. Again, we'd love to place everybody, but that doesn't happen. But what we strive to do is making sure that in every conversation we have, every chance we get, we're trying to give that person a better opportunity at finding the job or the quote unquote dream job they're looking for. And we try to take every step along that, maybe arm them with information around from our salary guide or whatever resources it is. That is our goal. First and foremost, we'd love to place everybody, but if we don't, the thing that we really task our teams with is how do we give that person a better chance? How do we help them better themselves so that they are finding that next job or the job that it is that they want?
I love that because for you guys, the candidate and the employer are both kind of your customer in a
Hmm.
sense, even though you guys are only making revenue from one side of the fence. The
Yeah,
reality is,
absolutely.
if you guys aren't serving those candidates well, I mean, they have no motivation or reason to stick with you, right? And Robert has a very, 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 very long history of people coming and working with you to find jobs. And I do think that points to, and not a Robert Half, fanboy. Not try. I don't know everything about Robert Half, but as we're sitting here talking, it just makes me realize like how many staffing firms I've seen that don't exist anymore, and,
Yeah,
and there's got to be a reason, right?
yeah.
Right, keeping the human in center of your focus, right, to help them find the right fit for them. It just makes so much sense. Now, what do you think is really driving employers from a hesitation perspective? Is it the financial aspect of it? Is it the technology change when it comes to hiring tech jobs? Like, do they not know what they need? Like, what have you seen causing hesitation with employers in terms of the hiring trends that you're seeing from them?
See all the above. It's, I think the financial aspect is the biggest part right now. I think a lot of organizations are just operating with a lot of caution in what they feel like is an uncertain environment to them. Whatever it might be, rates, tariffs, whatever is out there. I think it just causes them to be a little bit more cautious. And the first and foremost is protecting the company from a financial perspective. That is one. I think too, with the implementation of AI, there's a lot of people that are just looking at and waiting to see how the dust settles with AI and what does it do for jobs? How much more efficient does it make their people? What additional projects are and might be coming from AI? So that's a big part of it as well. And then I think candidly, as these organizations are going forward, they are struggling a little bit with, okay, what is the current IT environment? What is it going to look like here in the near future? And what's it going to look like long term as well? And that leaves them with a little bit of uncertainty as to, the last thing that you said, which is what do they need? But I would say at the forefront, it is a financial component to it that companies are
Mm,
operating with a lot of caution right now from a financial perspective, with the fear of we don't want to overhire, we don't want to spend money just in case. Even though a lot of organizations, you look at earnings, a lot of them have a lot of cash right now. A lot of them are
yeah.
doing fairly well. They're just operating with a lot of caution.
It's interesting because, we are in uncertain times, but I think that unemployment rate kind of points to they're really not as uncertain as maybe we might be treating them. If you think about it historically, right? There's some
Yeah.
things that ebb and flow, and that's just the nature of business. And um, I'd be curious from a tech trend perspective. You see big companies, very, very large companies who are vocally and clearly in the news for like 6,000 people layoffs, right? And the
Yeah.
argument is, hey, we're doing that more efficient with AI, right?
Hmm.
We've replaced the function with AI, and you see that time and time again. But I don't know if we see that as widespread as maybe it might feel at times. But it does
Yeah.
make me ask the question: what are the skills and the things that anybody in any role, whether it's technology or not,
Hmm.
can really be focused in on growing that you guys haven't seen anybody looking at AI to replace? Right? Like these skills are always going to be something that's valuable when you put on a resume, when I meet you, and you can demonstrate it. Like, what are those skills?
Yeah, I'll almost come at that from a little bit different angle. There's almost not any positions to this point that AI has fully eliminated. I think we hear those type of things, and one, a lot of these
Yeah.
bigger tech companies that are doing layoffs, it doesn't always mean that the layoffs are happening in IT.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be other areas of the organization. So that's one. Really, what we've seen from AI to this point is less job replacement and more job efficiency and productivity. I think that's really what it's done. The other thing that it's done, just like when the internet came, just like when other components of IT came and it was, oh no, it's coming for this job, it's coming for that job. Even if it did, it created other positions. Like I said
Yeah.
earlier, you talk about an AI engineer. We never saw that skill set 2 years ago. Never. An AI ethicist, I would have had to have asked you what that is 3 or 4 times to understand that. Those jobs are here. Now we talk to organizations that are standing up entire AI departments focused around that. So you see these big companies that are eliminating jobs, and maybe some of it is AI related. But as a whole, and for the most part, it's eliminated very, very few skill sets to this
Yeah.
point. It's really made those skill sets more efficient. So, long term, what will it do? I think we all want the crystal ball to be able to answer that question. But I would say so far, what we've seen is less job elimination, more job efficiency than anything else.
I think I'm glad you vocalized that, Thomas. 'Cause I think I've seen the same. I feel the same, right? I think there's two sides of the fence when it comes to AI. There's complete fear of the unknown of what could happen, but then there's the side of optimism, right? And hope. And to your
Yeah.
point, hope in making my life easier. And the way Dan Turching says is, you know, enabling me to not do the work that I dread so I can spend more time doing the work that I signed up to do, that you hired me to do.
That's the big thing from AI that we've seen. There's a lot of executives we talk to that are looking at AI and not thinking about it as full job replacement. It's how do we take the initiatives and the things that we wanted to do and take the timeline for those and shorten the timeline for the execution of it. And so again, maybe there are some that are eliminated, but I think the C suite that's really the most forward thinking is looking at how does AI help us expedite our initiatives? How does it help us progress quicker? And looking at it from that perspective, as opposed to just a pure cost, what jobs can we cut? I'm with you. I think it's got to be, the former, where it's what can this do for us, and the hope and optimism that comes with that.
I think you are someone who sees a lot of different businesses, right? And not even just in your area. You guys are all across the country, so you talk to people who are in different regions. And so hearing you vocalize it at an organization like Robert Half, who is so ingrained in the technology space across the entire country, I think just speaks volumes. And uh, for me, it just reiterates that fact that those who are hesitant to jump into a new role because it might be replaced by AI, right? It's not hasn't really happened significantly yet. And what's the saying? It's like history doesn't repeat itself, or I don't remember the exact saying, but history, right? It has this tendency to not have the exact same thing happen. But if you look at history, it can indicate what things are actually going to look like, right? In the
Mhm.
flows. And we saw this with prescriptive AI, right? Chatbots, the original chatbot. It's gonna eliminate jobs. It's gonna eliminate tech support. But you know what was required behind the scenes of that chatbot is a human before LLMs typing the question that
Yeah.
you were going to ask and the answer that it was going to provide you, right? So it did create more
Mhm.
jobs. So it's just, yeah, it's just encouraging to hear your perspective given just your scope of visibility, to markets and those kind of things. What do you think needs to happen before people really are willing, like they were a couple years ago, to start looking at the same rate they were looking, right? And moving to different
Yeah.
organizations. Like what kind of things need to happen in the market or within businesses for people to jump, and be willing to take that leap?
Yeah, I think comfort and more certainty, I think, is the biggest thing. And that's in a lot of different areas. Financial certainty, more of the dust settling around AI and what is it going to mean for particular jobs. I think that's really already started to happen, if not happening very, very
Yeah.
quickly. But that's really what they need. The biggest thing that's needed is more of that comfort. Salaries increasing again. Some of them we're still seeing are increasing. Some we've seen from an IT perspective that are flattened out. But if you talk about the candidate side, if candidates all of a sudden are getting phone calls again, making
Yeah.
5, 10, 15% more, they're gonna it's gonna entice them. And I think right now we've seen a little bit of a flattening, not in all areas. Some areas the salaries are continuing to increase, but I think that's a component of it. From a business perspective, it really just comes down to the certainty and them feeling like they either are more comfortable in the business environment with what it is. When I think there's a lot of organizations right now that have gotten very comfortable with, wherever it is that we are with tariffs or the rates or whatever it is, and they're just saying, listen, this is our norm. We have to operate. We have to move forward. We have to grow. We have to take advantage. And how do we do that? So we go back to that optimism talk. There's a lot of people that are beginning to say, this is our environment. Now, how do we take advantage of it
Yeah.
and not necessarily sit here as much in fear of it, and operating with as much caution as we have to this point? How do we advance? And that has started to really come about. And I think that's really what people need, is just to feel like they understand the rules of the game, is the way one executive put it to me. As soon as we know the rules of the game, we can all play the game. We just need to feel like we understand the rules of the game, and then we're ready to go.
Oh, that's such a good way to put it. What are the rules, right? And and I love that, like guys like Simon Sinek, right, who talk about leadership and talk about business, calls the game we play in business an infinite game, right? There's no winner, there's no
Mhm,
loser. It just keeps going. The
mhm.
rules will
And,
change.
and always changing. Yeah.
Yeah, the rules will change. It makes me wonder, like, as these rules are changing, what are you seeing employers do that your best candidates are looking for? Like, man, this is what gets a candidate to say yes, to be willing to make that
Mhm.
leap. Obviously, let's say salary's not in this equation. We all know you come in and offer me triple my salary, I could love what I do. It would be hard to say no. No. Granted, some people would say no. I might be one of those, depending on what the role you offer me was. But what are those other things that you're seeing really entice candidates to take that leap?
Yeah, the biggest one right now, outside of salary and benefits and the things that we've always seen, is the ability to learn new skills, the ability to feel like that, for that individual to feel like they have a chance to
Mm,
upskill, whether that's upskilling into a higher level position in their eyes, whether that's upskilling when it comes to AI, whatever it might be, giving them a chance to learn something in a new environment that they feel betters themselves or betters their opportunity within their career. That is the biggest thing right now, outside of salary, the flexibility with a hybrid work or whatever it might
yeah.
be, and benefits. It's, what can you do to help me upskill? What new environment, what new technology, what AI tool can I possibly learn? That is what's appealing to people and
Mm.
what's really standing out.
Are you seeing employees, or well, rather potential employees, candidates who are going through these interview processes ask those questions? Are they asking, "Hey, what
Mhm.
AI are you using? What kind of, what's on your roadmap?" Like, do you see that actually being asked by candidates now?
Absolutely. I
Interesting.
mean, it's almost a given that it's going to come up in most conversations. What are you doing with AI? What investments are you making with AI? What investments would be made within this position when it comes to AI or upskilling it? I would say it's almost becoming common ground more than it's not. So that question is definitely coming about, and it's much, much more prevalent, and it's continuing to increase by the day that these candidates want to know what these organizations are doing in that area.
Do you think that employers, if a candidate's not asking about AI, definitely as they come into a tech job, if that's something that would maybe give them pause for concern, right? If they're not talking about it in the interview as the candidate, right, who's trying to land this job,
Mhm.
they're not asking those type of questions. Like, do you think that kind of gives you a leg up if you have meaningful questions to ask about the roadmap when it comes to AI and technology?
I certainly don't think it can hurt. I
Yeah.
think it's not it's case by case.
Okay.
Some people they would look at it and say, I can't believe you didn't ask me as far as what we're doing with AI," and some
Yeah.
some won't. I mean, let's be honest. There's still some executives that look at AI and say, "Until you tell me more about it and the security and the certainty of it, I'm not touching it."
Yeah.
It's far and few between at this point, but it's case by case. What I would say is, I don't ever see a situation where it hurts to have those type of questions and to wonder about that type of investment.
Curiosity, man. Curiosity is an undervalued skill when it comes to
Hmm.
landing a role and being successful, right? And curiosity starts with humility. Like, I've never
Yeah,
met somebody who's prideful who is curious. I haven't.
yeah,
Like, if you're really into yourself and you think you're the best thing on this side of heaven, you're probably not asking other people about what they're doing or what they're working or their challenges, right? So humility and curiosity going hand in hand, and I see so much value in that. Yeah. What else are you seeing? What other trends are you seeing in the market, Thomas, that you think would be good for our listener just to be aware of? Right, you're closer to it than probably most of our listeners, and so what are those things that people need to know that it's happening?
yeah. I think the trends that are really, we talk about which organizations are beginning to distance themselves, which organizations are kind of taking that forward thinking type of approach in what they do. There's a trend of, like I said, more organizations that are starting to look at how do we invest? How do we invest now? Maybe with some cautious, being a little bit cautious about how we do it, but how do we go forward with the execution of it? How do we start to implement new tools? How do we better this organization? That's a trend. That's one. And I think on the candidate side, you look at it, there is a trend of people in the environment right now that are getting a little bit more comfortable with going out there and beginning to look at a new job. We talked about a second ago. I feel like more and more people are trending towards the fact that they understand the rules of the game. And we're seeing because of that, that there's people that are beginning to move forward in areas. And if you're an organization or a person that doesn't at least explore those options, you're going to start to lag behind a little bit. So I think that's a big one. As far as the trend and skill set, it's been very, very similar. It's been a lot of the same. We talk about security. Security is top of mind for executives right now. Security is top of mind when they think about tomorrow. And we asked executives 10 years from now, what do you expect to be top of mind? The answer was security. And I think that's a big
Yeah.
component of it. I had an executive put it to me one time. He's like, I've got a bumper sticker literally in my office that says security doesn't sleep. And you can almost put AI in there with it now. So
Yeah.
I think that's been an ongoing trend that's really stuck. But the newer trend is that we are seeing people and organizations that are beginning to get much more uncomfortable in the environment that we're in right now.
Well, security is ingrained in everything, right? And
Hmm.
it's got to be. And I'm just curious, and maybe you would know the answer to this question, but have you seen organizations standing up like AI governance roles where their whole job is to
Yes.
go in and validate that the business unit using this AI and this application,
Hmm.
whether it's native or it's third party, right,
Hmm.
is got the proper DLP and data loss, is secure and that vendor is SOC certified, right? And what all those lists of security things. Are you seeing roles that are really tailored specifically to go look for those things internally? And are those roles roles that are more technical? Are they more, what skills, I mean, if those roles exist, what skills go into being able to ask those right questions and look at the right things?
Yeah, no, listen, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's a big one. And we talk about trends. That is another trend too, is that we are seeing, especially those highly regulated industries. You look at financial services, you look at healthcare, you look at government, all these that are highly regulated. Most of those organizations are looking at AI from a governance perspective so far.
Yeah.
And how do they keep the guardrails in place to make sure they stay compliant? With that, it's creating new roles. So again, we talk about what roles might be going away. Well, there's a lot of roles that are being created, and as organizations look at this in a different manner. And so that trend towards AI governance, AI ethicist type of roles, AI engineers, that's an ongoing trend. And candidly, it's one we expect to continue to pick up.
I can't imagine a world where over time every single audit from every single governing body or external, resource that comes in to review your security doesn't start asking, what AI integrations do you have? Are they, generative? Are they agentic? What information are they reading? Are they training? Is it all secure? Is it in Azure? Right? All this long
Yeah.
list. So if you don't know the answer to those questions, what Thomas is saying is you need to figure it out or reach out to him so you can hire somebody who can help you.
You're going to need help.
Yeah.
It's that question is here. That question is here to stay. Who's watching it? Who's guarding it? Who's designing it? Yes, I would get very comfortable with that question.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Thomas, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I am going to ask you one final send off question. We've talked a lot about AI. We talked a lot about just the job market, right? People being hesitant and the shifts we've seen. You are a very different person than you were when you were born. You're a lot taller.
Mhm.
You have a lot more hair. You dress much nicer
I don't know about the more hair part. Hold on, wait a second there. But
than
the
when you were
rest,
born.
maybe.
Maybe not. Maybe not. Yeah, that's fair. The question I have for you is you've lived life and you are who you are. You are where you're at. Who has been the most influential person in your life and why?
Rocky, I gotta give it to you. I do a lot of these interviews, and I think you might have the most thought-provoking interviews when it gets to the end of these. You know, for me, that one is my mom. I mean, a lot of people would say that, and a lot of people, I got the best mom in the world, and listen, I get it, and that is what it is. And outside of my wife and my kids, it really is my mom. She had me at a very young age, at a very tough age, and it was at an age where it really required her to really roll up her sleeves, go to work, and find a way through life. And she did that. And she did it in a manner that she really always kept us in line with our faith, kept us in line with the things that were extremely important to her, but also in a manner that seemed very seamless and easy to us. And it really taught us this, me and my brother, this idea of if you're willing to work for it, and you're willing to try, no matter what roadblocks are put in front of you, you can get it done. If you're doing things ethically, you're treating people the right way, and you go work and really pour your heart into something that you care about, you can get it done. And don't accept anything else as the standard. And so, for me, that really was instilled in me very, very early on. It never left. It was continued to be instilled in me. And candidly, if I look at where I am in my career, going back to that idea of I will work, I will do things the right way, but I am going to work at this. I'm going to pour my heart into it when it's something I truly care about. That taught me what I am today, and it's gotten me where I am today. And between that and the support of my wife and family, there's no way I'd be where I am today, let alone moving, 1,000 miles across the country with my family to take another opportunity 2 years ago. So I would say that's probably the person that comes to mind.
There's nothing quite like our moms. Nothing
Mhm.
quite like it. Thomas, thank you for reminding us of the important things with the answer to that question. Family and ultimately the things that the people in our lives have poured into us that enable us to be where we're at, which is what we're all about at HDI. That's obviously what you guys are out about,
Yeah.
Robert Half, is enabling people to find that next opportunity. What do you guys have on the horizon before we send this episode off? What can people keep their eyes out coming into Q4 into Q1 from Robert Half?
Yeah, well, we have a big one coming, and that's our salary guide, which I know everybody is always very eager to see. So, we've been doing this for a very, very long time. I think this is our 75th year of doing it. So we've been putting it out there for quite some time. That's a big one that's coming. But we're looking at a lot of other things too, as we look at these trends and we look at what's coming around AI and the job market. There's going to be a lot more coming from us around that type of just information, but also just kind of the excitement of where we go as we go forward as well into kind of next year and the end of this year. We feel like there's very bright things ahead for our organization, for the market as a whole. We feel like there's really positive times coming. And so we're very optimistic that there's going to be quite a bit coming from us as we move forward here in the short term.
Awesome. Well, if you need help finding somebody to navigate the AI governance and the ethics of AI in your business, reach out to Thomas. He'll plug you in with the right person. And if you need help finding that next role, you want to be less hesitant, reach out to Thomas. He'll connect you to the right person. Thomas, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you. It's always such a blast to talk to you.
Yeah.
Have a great day. Have a great week. Tell your mom you love her, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Bytes and Banter.